All right. This is a bonus episode for everybody. I know it's not a normal episode, but we figured that we would do something a little bit special. We had the opportunity to have the man himself, the man, the myth, and the actual legend, Jim Shockey, on the podcast. So this is your boy East Coast Trev,
This is Steve.
we're actually really pumped about this. We can't thank Jim enough for taking the time with us. It was a little short bonus episode that we were able to do, and he kind of spread that word, man. What was kind of your thoughts on it, Steve?
It's it's just great to have perspective from someone with so much history from the ground up across the world, culturally, naturally, hunting, etc. I mean, pretty much crosses the entire bands on everything. So it's really good to get that wisdom and perspective onto the show and give that different point of view as it comes to hunting, some of the different ways he looks at the hunt versus the kill, the adventure versus the work, things like that. So
As I listened to it and kind of talked with him throughout all of this, like I kind of put a lot of perspective of how things have kind of became commercialized, and then to have somebody that's kind of out there and kind of ground you and kind of remind you, hey, that's not what it's really all about.
that's
Taking
right.
that, as soon as he had said some of the things in here, it kind of humbles you. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the right idea. Anyone can hunt nowadays with technology, but go back and try to do it primitive, do it the way the ancestors did,
Mm-hmm.
and then see what your respect goes up to.
I mean, this man killed a a big, I think it was a buffalo or something with the air gun,
Yeah.
the air bow. I mean, like, come on, that's awesome, absolutely incredible. Um, you guys should definitely listen in.
Yeah. Let's just go ahead and skip through everything and fire the sucker up.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Let's take a look. You're listening to the Outdoor Drive Podcast.
All right, we're back on the line with the man himself, Mr. Jim Shockey. How are you, Jim?
I'm totally wonderful. How about you guys?
Hanging in there. We really appreciate you taking the time to come down and join us. I know you're a busy man and got a lot of, you wear a lot of hats. So,
Yeah, you got me in my civilian hat today. My normal golf outfit.
you going
Nice.
golfing?
I don't know. We'll see. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, why don't we get this underway? Turn the key. Why don't you tell everyone who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Well, I'm Jim Shockey, and hopefully everybody already knows what I do. We'd be here for a little while if I started describing 50 years in the outdoor industry.
That's an
It'll take a little
understatement.
too long.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, one thing I really do want to hit on and kind of talk about is, and I see you're walking around, and obviously we have the video side and everyone's kind of on the audio, but you have a museum.
Yeah. I'm actually in here right now we call it the Great Room in our Hand of Man Museum of Natural History, Cultural Arts, and Conservation here on Vancouver Island. So it's sort of my passion, always has been. That's something I started collecting, objects for this museum back when I was 10 years old. I could have told you what would be in it. I didn't know where it would be or how I would be able to afford it, but I could have described it back then, and I just kept on that track for 53 years, focused on creating this museum.
That's amazing.
Totally amazing. What is probably one of your favorite pieces inside of the museum?
Every single piece, the whole point of this museum is called Hand of Man for a reason. Things that were created, touched by human beings, every one of them is just as valid as the next. There's memories associated with some of these. Like I think on that back wall, those moose antlers you're saying, there's, I don't know how many, 20 sets or 10 sets. Eva's first moose is there, our daughter Eva. My father's last moose is up there. So there's objects in here that the memories are certainly more poignant than others, but every single object in here is just as important. It was made by somebody for some purpose, generally ceremonial, spiritual. Maybe it was just done for love. Some of the pieces in here, like the embroideries and show towels, the samplers that are on the walls, the quilts. I mean, your viewers or listeners can't see it, but there's Doukhobor textiles on the wall, Amish quilts. There's Ghanese fishing flags behind me, and Kyrgyz embroideries from around the world. That's literally what I've done for the last 50 years. The hunting was a part of it, certainly, but gathering all these objects for this museum was the purpose behind everything.
Wow. And at what point, and obviously you said that you wanted to do this for such a long time, but at what point did it really come to fruition and it just all come together?
Well, it's an ongoing process. It's all part of the journey. So it's not, I mean, it's come together where I can show you around here and you'll think, oh, it's complete, but it's not complete. It's never going to end. Right now I'm in the process of curating it all. So, that'll take 10 years to get everything out of my brain and onto digital, format. That's what we use here. We don't use the big signs with the writing all over them. That's old school and passé. We use iPads and video messaging and presentations for every object in here. So little tiny numbers beside each object, and people look on the iPad and see the video presentation about that object. So that's still ongoing. So when did it all come to fruition? It's been coming to fruition for 53 years, and it probably won't be fruited. I'm not sure if that's such a word, but
I like it though.
But yeah, if it's not, we'll use poetic license and say it's a word. So it won't be fruited until probably I'm gone from this earth.
Definitely leaving some type of a stamp, right? it's what you leave behind.
The amazing thing I see about it is, everyone associates you with the hunt, but I've always more associated you with the travels and the cultural intuition, the different ability to go and look and see what happens around the rest of the world and how hunting's involved with that. So it looks like what you've really built here is more the representation of the cultures, more so than just hunting, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I mean, all of that interaction with the cultures around the world that are hunting cultures, that's all part of hunting. I mean, the kill is just a tiny little portion of any hunt, and it's not a two-dimensional, pie. It's a three-dimensional ball, and it's a sliver of that ball is actually the kill of an animal. The rest, the interaction, the exploration, the adventure, the learning, the teaching, that's all part of hunting. So I've always focused on the big picture about what hunting's really is. Explorers are hunters and hunters are explorers, and so I've traveled the world doing what hunters do. Really, I mean, I've had the privilege of doing that, to some pretty exotic places, but most hunters can't necessarily do that. But all of us are interested in natural history, skeletons. If we see a bird's nest, we're going to look at it. If we see a bone on the ground, we're going to pick it up. And of course, we might get a little more excited if we see a big white-tailed deer shed antler, but it's all part of hunting. And so I the culture to me of these places, that's just as much a part of, it's more than the actual kill of any animal.
And it's kind of funny, or not funny, but it's awesome how that you take it more to the primitive side with doing it more with a muzzleloader or, a longbow or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I think the challenge is directly proportional to the accomplishment. So I want to make things more difficult, and I want to harken back to the times of yore when we use muzzleloader and bow and arrow, and rifle. I have no problem with rifle at all. I love using a rifle as well. It's certainly easier than trying to sneak that extra bit closer for muzzleloader, or even closer for archery. So it's all part of hunting. I mean, I'd use a slingshot. In fact, I have used a slingshot before, and air guns. It doesn't. It's again back to it's the process. It's not the kill. So all of that, getting closer, interacting with the animals, that speaks to me, and also, like I say, the fact that our antecedents didn't have the high power weapons. So, to go back and try and do it like they did is pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of, you're touching your ancestral soul when you're out there hunting. And I think you're a little bit closer to it if you have a bow and arrow in your hand, in a lot of ways. That's how they had to do it. Or, I mean, atlatls we don't use anymore, but, if it was legal, it would be pretty cool to try with that too. So yeah, I just like, and again, the challenge, like I say, is directly proportional to the accomplishment. So the greater the challenge, the greater the accomplishment. I wanted to challenge myself, always have. I love challenge.
There's another piece that I wanted to touch on. Funny enough, you made a post today about finding excuses to make the hunt last longer. And I found that really interesting because a lot of people, especially on the hunts that you're out getting to do, they want to get out there and get that first day kill and, have it be easy. But it was really nice to watch that video of how that all progressed with that moose and it just fading away off into the brush. Oh man, you got to go do it again. I thought that was a really good outlook on it.
Yeah, it's a fact. I mean, we have tons of video footage. It drives my cameraman nuts because I could have taken the shot. That's the camera was fixed. Yes, there was a glitch. Well, that's good. I grabbed onto that as an excuse not to take the shot, but I could have taken the shot after the camera was fixed. Once the hunt's over, once you kill the animal, the actual process, that journey, kind of is over. I mean, they still have a lot of work to do, obviously, get the meat back, but the hunting, the lying in wait for, the search for, all that part's over, and I love that part. So if in my perfect world, if I could get the animal I'm after in the last minute of the last day, that's a perfect hunt. My dad, I grew up with a meat hunting father, and if he could get the deer in the first minute of the first day and be back at work by noon, that was a great hunt for him because it was about meat. So the more time you spent trying to get that meat, the less cost efficient it was. And that's not why I hunt. I mean, I love the meat, absolutely, but that's not defensible in the long run. In today's world, we can't just relegate these animals to being a hamburger running across a field. They're not just meat. They are, a far greater importance than meat. Like I say, it's a spiritual connection for hunters. You have to have that. And that's what we have to show people and let people understand. So, to kill it, we're kind of turning it into meat as quickly as possible, or making that the ultimate goal of what the hunt's about. And it can't be. It's got to be the process of the hunt, the journey, and then that's defensible into the future. No matter how many billion people there are in this world, we can. They won't be able to shut us down from doing what we love. Being hunters, being out there hunting, enjoying the wildlands.
Very well said.
Absolutely. And, one of the things I definitely want to touch on too, in the time that's given, what was kind of like one of the most, not memorable, but like craziest experiences that you've had in the traveling that you've done in the past 50 years?
Well, There's been a lot. I mean, every time you go into one of these remote places, and I'm talking remote from us here in North America, not necessarily remote like the Yukon where there's no people, but just far away lands, and you're not close to the all-inclusive tourist destinations. You're going to run into situations that are certainly memorable. I mean, I've been bumped into the Mercy tribal smugglers that were smuggling arms one way and probably drugs the other way, and between Sudan and Somalia. So it was my PH and I had a muzzleloader in my hands, and he had a double barrel, big rifle, and we were the only two armed, and we bumped into a group of, I think there were 6 of these smugglers, and they were all armed with AK-47s. So the one little leader came up to me and put him on his face and looked to his buddies to, saying, "Look at me, look how tough I am." So when he turned around, I just reached and I snapped his gree necklace off his neck and started pantomiming that we're doing a trade. Okay, you take my sunglasses, but I'm taking your gree. And what that did, it's halted the escalation, or it basically called him out and said, okay, one of us is going to die right now in the next 30 seconds, and one's going to be badly hurt. Which one do you want to be? I don't know which one's which, but I'm sure as heck all in. So let's escalate this, because if I wouldn't have done something, then I'm a victim. He would just turn around and next thing he'd take is my gun. Then you're helpless. At what point do you if you're going to fight, let's just fight. Let's get this over with. And I wasn't afraid. I mean, it's not. But when I snapped that off his neck, he kind of started, and his buddies who he was leading saw that, and that was fear. And I was laughing. I thought, okay, good. This, I always wondered how it was all going to end. Maybe it's not going to. Maybe it'll be hurt. So here we go. But his sort of reflexive start, that there was another predator in the room, just as big, just as bad, maybe armed with a muzzleloader, which he probably didn't realize. It defused the situation. He didn't escalate it to the next level. But I mean, how many of those stories do you want? I'm fortunate to be alive. I have a lot of friends that aren't with us right now. Started on the same journey I did, and just objective dangers, wrong place, wrong time, and they didn't make it to today. So yeah, I've got a whole several books worth of those kind of memories.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Not many people are going to run into those situations as they're out and about. You've definitely put yourself in unique situations, to say the least. And it's really provided for a unique outlook throughout your show, throughout all the different things you've been doing. Anyone that's followed you has seen 100 different ways to do the same thing in 100 different places, just because of the way you've approached everything. And it's been an absolute blast to grow up watching and following along and learning about, who would have known about this ram in this country if you hadn't been one of the first to go out there and show it on TV. So that's an accomplishment.
I appreciate that. It's kind of funny. I'll go to conventions now and I'll get guys in their mid 40s coming up to me and saying, yeah, I watched you when I was a kid. And I kind of say, no, I know you. And then I think about it and say, yeah, actually, you probably did. It's I've been doing it for a long time. I again, it was serendipity. I right place, right time with the right skill set, and just when cable television was coming on and they needed more content, and I've always had to have an ulterior motive, something more than just going to get the animal, to me, to bring the experience back and share it with all my fellow hunters. That was more important to me than just going to get the animal. That leaves me cold. But if I could share the experience, then great. And so when you tell me things like that, it's validation for a vision that I had a long time ago. And hopefully hopefully it's inspired the next generation of hunters to get out there and carry the torch around the world for us.
Absolutely. Greatly appreciate it.
There's no question to that at all. Me being younger, I mean, I followed along with what you had going on also. I'm only in my 30s and we followed along there, you know. One thing I do want to ask, and you've kind of answered it, but I bet you have a different answer for it, and we ask everybody this, is what drives you outdoors?
It's who I am. I mean, that's who we are. You know, we can dress ourselves up in pretty clothes and live in high rises, but ultimately, you know, you can't evolve who we are out of us in 10,000 years. I mean, we were hunter-gatherers 10,000 years ago, 99% of us, and you know, we became agrarian. We had to, because our population was growing. So we were almost forced into what isn't it's an unnatural situation for human beings. So to me, you get one life to live, so why not live it truthfully and honestly, which means being outdoors. I mean, gee whiz, I couldn't imagine living life any other way than going outdoors. So it's not that anything drives me; it's who I am, what I do. It's who we all are. You know, it's hunting isn't something we do. It's what we are. We're hunters, and always have been. And you know, I just unwilling to deny that reality. So you know, I guess what drives me outdoors, being true to who I am and who we are as human beings.
Absolutely. I really like it a lot, and it's the truth. I mean, we all live by that every single day. One thing I do also want to ask, is there anything that you want to leave the listeners with before we kind of close up the show?
No, I mean, you know, we all have a responsibility as outdoors people. You know, we're all naturalists, and part of that is being a hunter. So we all have a responsibility to represent hunting and hunters to the best of our ability. So never, ever, you know, believe that you're above that as a hunter, as an individual. We are all part of a kindred spirit. We're all brethren. We live by the same philosophies, and so every one of us has a responsibility to represent, you know, you and anybody listening, to represent us as well as we possibly can. Because if we don't, I'm afraid that in today's world, with truth being, you know, not so relevant anymore, that we have to stand on the high ground and never leave that high ground. Don't debase what hunting is because you personally think that it's, you know, nobody's going to tell me what I can or can't do. No, we have a responsibility. We're all in this world together, and we have to represent hunting and hunters in a responsible way. So that would be my advice. And I'm seeing it in this younger generation of hunters coming up, a far greater sense of understanding of hunting. Like I say, my father was a meat hunter. You know, it was all about eating meat, and that was it. And that's not what hunting's about. That's part of it, but you know, it's a much greater picture, bigger picture than just animals or hamburgers running across a field. So, as I said, it's about touching our ancestral soul. It's about a spirituality, and we all need to represent hunting in that way. I think in that way it's defensible, and our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and their children into the future will all be able to enjoy this pastime that we love.
Well said. Real quick, where can everybody find you if they already haven't?
Yeah, we're you know, website jimshockey.com, but also we're on all the social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook, even Twitter. So if you get on Instagram or Facebook, you can follow me pretty much daily on what I'm doing. I'm pretty serious about making sure that people can follow along on the daily life of an outdoorsman.
Outstanding. Well, Jim, we really want to thank you for your time today. It means a lot to us that you'd cut some out and have a visit with us young pups. And thanks again for your 50 plus years of dedication to conservation, the outdoors, to hunting, to everything that goes around in that world, as well as the cultural side. So hats off to you, and we'll continue to watch and see how things go.
That's my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. And for everybody out there listening, please take all this to heart. It means a lot, and there's no future without it. And with that being said, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.